So the next chapter was on fear and trust. Another awesome chapter here. And there's another life lesson that I really love here that I want to share with the audience. On the other side of fear, there is trust. Turn toward your fear and trust, and that you'll always have the resources, similar to what you were just speaking about.
Yeah.
You'll actually need to you'll get through any situation, no matter how difficult. And I really liked your approach and teaching here, particularly in terms of turning towards the fear to recognize it for what it is. To what I was just saying to the audience, Mello, as you were just away there for a moment, that we can often be defeated by the stories that we tell ourselves.
Mm.
And I love this line, that trust, that on the other side of fear, there is trust. And I was just wondering, do you feel that the more we actually do that, turn towards our fears and meet them, that the more we actually build in trust? And what do you advise in terms of changing our perspectives around limiting beliefs? Because oftentimes people just say, it's all right for you to say, but I just don't trust them or don't trust myself. And so there's those limiting.
Yes. Yeah, great. Yeah. And it is, fear is one of those primal emotions, right? It's one of those really raw ones. We often don't know what we're feeling. So the first step is actually understanding. Out of all the emotions, obviously you have fear, anger, sadness, and joy. Fear is the one that actually does invoke a bit of a feeling through the body. So if we can actually, first of all, even understand it's fear that we're feeling, that's a good starting point.
Right.
Okay. That's the first point. To break it down, you might get confused, through fear. You might feel stuck. You might feel, procrastinating. You might feel trapped. You might have all these other feelings. You're not sure what you're even feeling. So the first step is, hey, that's fear I'm feeling. And then the second step is like, what is it that's making me scared? What is it that's creating this fear? What is it that's actually doing it? And then you're turning towards that fear. And, there's basic human fears. There's fear of rejection. There's fear of being judged. There's fear of change. There's fear of, heights, all these sort of things there. So if we can actually understand what the fear is, then we can develop a relationship with that fear and actually, again, turn towards it. And on the other side of fear is trust. I truly believe that, in many ways. So often we don't trust ourselves. Again, like I said, if I was to think about all those things that would happen to me along that trip, I never would have actually done it in the first place because I'm operating out of fear.
Yes.
But if I trust myself that no matter what life throws at me, if I trust myself deep down that I've got what it takes to get through any situation, then the fear will override the trust.
Yes.
So an exercise that I teach a lot of and what I do myself is, how can I flip my fears into trust? If I'm having a fearful thought, I'll flip it. Well, I trust that I have the resources inside of me to get through that situation. If I have a fear of, let's say I have a fear of public speaking, and public speaking is a deep fear that many people have because it actually ticks a lot of those boxes of, of being judged, fear of making a mistake, fear of, doing the wrong thing, fear of inadequacy, fear of rejection. So it ticks a lot of those boxes, but it's not useful or helpful me to feed those fears. If I turn it to trust, I trust that I know my stuff. I trust that I'm going up there with good intention to help people. I trust that I'm speaking in front of people and I've got a message to share. And I trust that if somebody asks me a question, I have a response to that question. And if I don't, I'll, point them to the right direction. So we turn it into that trust. And once we start trusting ourselves, we can actually change the emotional response of it.
Yes. So here's what I'm wondering, Mello, about this. Do people have to believe that they have trust? Because the affirmations are really powerful, right?
Mm.
But what if they were to sort of come up with those, they flip their fear and come up, I trust that I have the resources, but then it's like, no, but I don't believe I do, And so then the mind kicks in again, doesn't it,
Yeah, and that's when it goes into that sort of limiting belief. I'm not smart enough. I'm not old enough. I'm too young. All those sort of things. So yes, you do have to believe it. You do have to embody it to some extent. It's one thing just to say it, but you don't really believe it.
Yeah.
So you do have to believe it. And I think the first point is really trusting yourself. Trusting yourself in whatever situation you get put in, and that will then help you to trust others, and that'll help you. So that expands from there. So having that deeper internal trust to actually, really believe in yourself. So yes, you do have to believe in it. The more you say it, you can use positive affirmations. You can use all sorts of techniques to positively affirm that. but you have to still embody it and feel it and sort of have that feeling in there. Limiting beliefs are another thing that I also use a similar thing that'll be to flip it. So, for example, I'm not smart enough. So what I'll say to someone that's saying those things is like, well, what evidence do you have that says you're not smart enough? So turn towards that, and they'll come up with something, and then how does that hinder you? How does that actually hold you back? So you're starting to sort of turn towards it there, and then turn and again flip it over to the other side. Well, I am smart enough. I have all the knowledge that I need to get through this situation. So really, first of all, questioning your limiting belief, and
Yes.
second of all, turning it around into a positive. And if you break that belief, how different will your life be? And if you can reverse that thinking, we can approach life in a different way. Many people say, I'm not quite ready. I have to do another course before I do that. I have to do another training before I do that. I have to do this. It's just that limiting belief there. But if you trust that whatever you have now is enough to get through that situation or do what you need to do and learn along the way, to be honest.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's really important what you just said, and it's very similar to what I teach again. And just maybe two things that I'd
Sure.
like to highlight. And Mela just said maybe that you do have to learn and get resources along the way. So one way that you can trust yourself is by your experience.
Mm.
So turning towards your fear and actually saying, "Oh, I actually turned towards it. I met it head on." And I'm still here, I'm still functioning. It wasn't as bad as what I thought. That starts giving you evidence that you can trust yourself, right? And then
That's
you
right.
believing that. And those questioning techniques that Mello just talked about there are almost exactly verbatim what I use.
Mm.
Is it true? Is that helpful and useful? And then another little phrase I say is, especially if people are so caught up in it, no, it's true, it's true, it's true. I say, just imagine that it disappeared for a day. What would that be like for you? Just for people to get a sense that, oh, I'd actually feel much better. And so just this understanding that holding on to that just is not serving us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what new possibilities does it open up in you by letting go of that? Years ago, I was a personal trainer in another lifetime, right? Many years ago.
Right.
And that sort of learning along the way. My first ever client that I ever had, I worked in a gym for the first time as a personal trainer. And my first client that came through the door was in a wheelchair. And it was
Well,
like, oh my God, I don't know how to work with somebody in a wheelchair. I did this little short personal training course. I didn't learn that. But guess what? I learned how to train somebody in a wheelchair, and I became very good at it. My second client, I kid you not, was third trimester pregnant. So I didn't know what to do with her either.
yeah.
And like, okay, I had to learn how to, train somebody that was third trimester pregnant. But I had the trust that I was, learning along the way. And this is no word of a lie. My third client that I got as my personal training client was a type 1 diabetic. So it was like, I didn't have that information
Right.
beforehand, but I became good at training special populations. I became good at training type 1 diabetics. I became good at that because I trusted that I would learn along the way. So just that deeper trust within yourself. So it's a good example of we don't have all the answers all of the time, but we can
Yes.
actually use our knowledge and skills and learn and take that knowledge in and then share that with others afterwards.
Mm. One more thing. A lot of us sometimes will be, as I said, consumed with the no, I don't trust myself, or I don't have the resources. And we hold on to that. But if you actually really, it's like, how are you actually even here listening to what we're talking about right now? Go back,
Yeah.
think about your life. You've actually had to go through, because just living on this planet, just the nature of living on this planet, you've gone through some difficulties. So,
Yes.
how did you even get through that? Right. So,
Yes.
it's important to, yes, we can be in the grip of these limiting beliefs, but look at it carefully and clearly, and you'll notice that no matter what your mind is telling you, you do actually have resources.
Yes, exactly. And you'll always have them when you need them.
Yes, yes. And